All right, so I got this Stelo continuous blood glucose monitor. Mostly got it just to kind of see my health habits, see what's going on between my sleep, diet, stress, what I eat. It'd be great to lose some weight, but that's not my goal. I just want to stay healthy, make sure I'm not, I have insulin problems and I don't know it. So I'm gonna try this brand, see how it goes, and I am going to keep you updated on what I learn. All right, yeah, so I'm gonna try to keep updating this on what I learn, little habits. I feel like biometrics like this is always good to learn more about yourself. And maybe it even will hold me accountable. So I used that Stelo continuous blood glucose monitor for about 7 days. After 7 days, it actually just kind of broke and the readings got less consistent. So I don't know if I just had a faulty one or maybe I bonked the monitor or something, but I'm not sure if that's the brand or just a user error. But it was, even just in a week though, it was extremely helpful because it really let me look at how my body responds to all sorts of variables. Because you hear so much online with these longevity experts and what medicine's telling you, what your doctor tells you. But really the best measurement is N of 1, as they say, is measuring yourself. So the big thing I learned with insulin resistance and blood sugars is there's kind of two categories. And what I found for me was that my problem was my fasting blood glucose. So I put it on right after a meal and my blood glucose was maybe, I think it was like 135, and it just went back down to, around 100. And it would go, during the day it would go up and down. I didn't have a lot of trouble after meals. So I would eat a meal and it would drop back down, to 100 or below, which is my skeletal muscles kind of helping my body take up that blood glucose. The other side of insulin resistance and blood glucose management is what the doctor tests, which is fasting blood glucose. So the first 2 days, I woke up the first day and I was at like 108, 110, fasting blood glucose, which was not good. The night before, I had a balanced dinner with carbs, protein, fat. It was a healthy dinner, but there was it was a bunch of rice in there. And then all I had at 9 o'clock, I've been having like a decaf coffee with a little bit of milk and monk fruit, just sometimes is like dessert. So not even anything like ice cream or anything wild. But those two things from my body kept my blood glucose high. So that was a sign that I have some insulin resistance in my liver, my hepatic insulin resistance. And so I tried a bunch of things to work on this. The main thing I did was that I just limited my carbs at night. So after that first day, which kind of freaked me out, I just didn't have many carbs with my dinner. And then I didn't eat anything after dinner, nothing. Just like I was like, dinner's done at whether it's 6 or 7. I didn't ingest anything else. And that was I made a couple other changes, but that was a big one I changed. And within 7 days, I was waking up and my blood glucose was in the 80s. And then my resting blood glucose in between meals had also dropped from, the high hundreds from the high 90s and 100 down to like the high 80s and mid 80s in between meals. So that alone made a big difference. One thing I found for me, I remember it was like the second day I saw one of the longevity gurus talking about how they were like, oh, you can't have oatmeal or carbs in the morning. You got to start your day with protein. But I just had oatmeal anyways, and I could watch how my blood sugar went on that graph, and it was fine. I can eat oatmeal every morning. My blood glucose will go up. It's not going to go up too high, and it'll drop steadily, and then I'll be fine throughout the day. So it's not like I needed to cut carbs altogether or go keto. Of course, that's just me. Maybe, you might be different, but I think sometimes the advice you hear sometimes doesn't work for everybody. Another thing I found out was that stress does play a big role in blood glucose. I remember I was at work and I get a text from my wife that we have to replace her HVAC unit, which is like $10,000 to $15,000 that we have to pay. So it's a little stressful. And my blood glucose went up like 10 points. Like you could just see, like, I got the text and it just went up. I mean, it went back down, but it was just a sign how, like, I didn't eat anything, but the stress just increased it. So if I was chronically stressed and just dealing with things like that all the time, that could really cause a lot of problems with my blood sugar. I always exercise 5 to 7 days a week, and I'm very active throughout the day. I got 2 young kids, so I'm always moving. I found if my blood glucose was, it never went above 140, but even if it was at like 130 after a meal, like I could walk it down pretty quickly. So it didn't even have to be intense cardio or long cardio, just walks decreased my blood glucose. What I did find was that strength training and intense exercise would drop it late, like 6 hours later. So there was one day where I was playing, my 8-year-old's getting really good at soccer and I have to play pretty hard now to keep up with him. And I was sprinting with those boys and having a blast. I was really exhausted after. And then I looked, later on in the day and my blood glucose was like in the low 80s, much lower than it was the day before. Strengthening had the same effect. It didn't immediately drop my blood glucose, but about 6 hours in the afternoon, it was a little bit lower than it had been the day before without that. So another great thing that this continuous blood glucose monitor did is that it positively reinforced hunger. So normally when I get hungry, I just eat, my body needs food and I just eat and go about my day. But since my mind was thinking about my blood glucose, I was checking that app all the time. I think when I looked at my screen time, it was like music was the number one most used app, and then that blood glucose monitor was second, because I was just checking it every like 30 minutes at least. So when I was watching myself get hungry, it directly correlated with a drop in my blood glucose. So that hunger, instead of being like, I need food, I almost was like, oh, my blood glucose must be very good. And so that really kind of helped reframe hunger for me, that it's like, it's a good thing to feel. And like I said earlier, my intention wasn't to lose weight, but I ended up losing weight. And I think the two things that helped me lose weight was just not eating carbs at night, because I saw what that did to my specific blood glucose. And then viewing hunger differently. That really kind of helped reframe it for me. Another thing I was reminded of is how addicting sugar is. I've experienced this before. I've gone periods without eating any sugar. And, that week of monitoring my blood glucose, I ate a little less sugar. And then it was my son's 5th birthday, so I went to the movies and I had, some popcorn and M&Ms. And the next day I'm craving sugar, when before that I wasn't. So it's almost for me, I think it might be, abstinence is easier than moderation for some things. I think, sugar and foods like that might be that way. Of course, I'll still enjoy it, but it was just a reminder that, like, I can't eat a little bit of that every day. It's just not good for my brain or my body. Now, of course, I'll be able to eventually eat carbs at night, and my liver will respond appropriately, and I'll be able to wake up with a fasting blood glucose of, less than 100. It should take, hopefully 4 to 6 weeks of this, and my body will get more efficient. So it's not one of those things like I can never eat carbs again, and if you have high blood glucose, you never eat carbs at night. But wearing that continuous blood glucose monitor just gave me the specific pathway to improving my body's ability to manage blood glucose. So overall, I found it extremely helpful. Even though it only lasted 7 days, in that 7 days, I learned so much about how my body responds to specific variables. And it gave me a clear and individualized path to move forward and to make myself healthier and prevent diseases and morbidity in the future. It also gave me a lot of skills to help understand blood glucose, read these charts, and see what's going on, what might be causing what. So if you have any questions about it, drop a comment below. I think even though it was like $100 and you're supposed to have two-week sensors, it's worth it just to know. You don't have to get it every month. Even just 1 or 2 weeks, if you're paying attention, should give you enough information to improve your life.